She calls it the whoa whoa challenge. Week off, wank off. We'll just leave it at that. Pardon me, am I naive because I got married at a young age? She actually went and was like physically sick. So you know she's about to go send him home, and I was like, no. Hey guys, and welcome to this week's Get Ready With Me in TV Bachelorette edition. So let's just get right down to it and begin today's video. I follow the Bachelorette and the Bachelor on Instagram. I'm that loser that just follows all reality TV stars on Instagram. I'm that person. They do sometimes give a little sneak peek for that night's episode. So I watched it, and it was like 5 surprising departures, and I was like, wait, 5 guys are going home today? I immediately was like, please just be Hunter, you know? Like, please just be Hunter. The episode starts with Katie talking to Tayshia and to Caitlin, and the girls are asking her what she thinks of how it's going, and how's she feeling about the guys, and she does say that she is to the point where she feels like she's starting to like fall for a lot of the guys. And it is crazy because I feel like this is one of the first seasons that I at least have watched, because I haven't watched them all. But this is maybe one of the first ones that the person, the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, really just has multiple really good connections. Like, there's been a couple maybe on other seasons, but never like this many. Like, she's got a good relationship with Connor, a good relationship with Justin, a good relationship with Greg and Michael and Blake and Andrew S. Like, that's 6 guys that she genuinely, I think, like has real feeling. They're just having girl chat, and they're talking about how, you know, she's like, oh, I got a really hot group of men, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, but I have this fun little challenge that I want to, you know, challenge them with. My mom watches my videos, so sorry, Mom, in advance. And also maybe a little bit of a caution, like we're going to be talking about a little bit of sexual stuff. So if you're watching at an age you probably shouldn't be hearing about sex, then maybe exit the video. Also, I sometimes forget this, so I apologize. But also, spoiler alert, I will be talking about this week's episode and past week's episode. So anyways, she has a challenge. She calls it the whoa whoa challenge. It's basically a week off of self-gratification. So odd to talk about on my channel, but like pleasuring yourself. We'll just leave it at that. I don't know. See if they can do it. See if they're willing to do anything for her type thing. Am I naive? She was like, I know this is going to be hard. Like, are they even going to be able to go 24 hours? I don't know. And I'm thinking, like, pardon me, am I naive because I got married at a young age? Like, is this normal for men to do that every day? Like, what? So Caitlin goes and breaks the news to the guys. The guys think it's kind of funny, but it's kind of like awkward all in this at the same time. And like the guys are like, oh, this is going to change everything. Like, this is going to be so hard. And then again, I'm thinking, like, really? Because I'm pretty sure, like, whoa, this is so awkward to talk about on my channel, but whatever, we're already here. Whoa was an acronym for week off, wank off. I think, because they bleeped the wank part out, but I'm pretty sure that's what it stood for, if I understood it right. So technically, it's not like she's like, oh, for the next month that you're here, you can't, I don't know. It was like only a week. So like, really? They can't go a week? That's gross to me. So then she also gives the guys a date card, and then she leaves. So this is the first one-on-one of the week. It's definitely starting to become more and more important that the guys are getting one-on-one time. So all the guys are nervous, and it's Justin who gets the date, which I actually am so glad. If you've watched the past episodes of my Get Ready With Me in TV, you will know that I do really like Justin, and I find him, really funny, but also he's one of the more mature ones of the bunch. Hunter is kind of the new villain. You know, we kind of talked about him a lot last week. He just is very cocky and almost competitive, and it comes across as like he doesn't have the best intentions. Like, it is a competition, of course, but if you view it as like you're winning a game or a competition, I don't think that you should be there. Then he starts talking to Greg, and I mean, I think everybody knows that she really likes Greg. I mean, he was the first one to get a one-on-one, and they just really have a strong connection. Hunter's talking to Greg, and he's like, yeah, man, like, do you think you're gonna get a second one-on-one? And Greg's like, I don't know, like, I already got one. I wouldn't think so. And he's like, well, it's been done before. And then Greg's like, oh, is it? I didn't know. And he's like, well, yeah, it's been done before, not too often, but it has, especially, like, he knew, like, everything. Not to say that just because maybe he's watched the show that he's a bad person, but it just seemed like the guy started calling him like a super fan, and it kind of does come across that way. Like he's like talking about it like it's like a competition. Yeah, the guys are not really enjoying him, and they used words like he seems very calculated, is a super fan. They made comments of like, oh, I've even heard that he's on like the blogs and the Bachelorette blogs and forums making comments. And it's not even necessarily what the guys are saying that would like make me concerned. It's his attitude and like his cockiness that, in my opinion, is why I don't like him. On to Justin and Katie's one-on-one. So Franco Lacosta, he is the photographer for The Bachelorette. So he's there, and they are like reenacting and creating a wedding day. So that's what their date is. So she mentioned before the date that this date was really important for her and Justin's relationship because they have a super, super fun, you know, lighthearted, have similar humor, they joke around, but she's like, I want to see if this can be also serious. They have to like write their vows to each other. He's really, really nervous. I think because, you know, he said, I've never even thought about marrying anybody yet. Like, and he did say to her, because she asked like, you know, have you ever been close to proposing? And he says no. He's like, you know, I had this kind of checklist in my head, and, you know, girls that I've been with, you know, they've maybe checked off a couple of them, but never all of them. And he said, there's been times where I'm like, am I too picky? And he's like, and now that I've met you, not only have you checked all of my points, but you've also added more. I didn't even realize like that's something that's important to me. Like something about you is like, wow, I would really want that in a wife. She's in a wedding dress, and he's in a suit, and she like walks down the aisle with her flowers, and she looks beautiful. He looks handsome, and it's so cute. They're both say their vows. Justin's basically was, you know, with her, he found a love that he didn't even know existed. He said he wanted to always have her back and protect her, and just lots of really cute things that you would want to hear from somebody if they were writing a vow to you. Then it was her turn, and she did a great job as well. She vowed to, you know, love him and cherish him, like pretending they were actually getting married. She also like made a reference to like their love is like a canvas, and she wants to paint a beautiful picture. Like I butchered that, but in that kind of idea, like she referenced, because he's a painter is why she did that. And it was really, really cute. They kissed. They also took some photos, like Franco came and took photos of them. So it seemed like a really cute day. So then the evening portion of the date, they go to dinner. She tells him, I had a great time, blah, blah, blah. But she did say, you know, this was really tough for me. And she starts to get emotional. And I forget that like we already know her dad passed, but not all the guys know that. So she does share that with him. She's like, obviously I had a whole lot of fun. Like, you know, it wasn't hard because of you. It was a great day. It was a really cute moment. But she said, it is really tough for me to think about my wedding day. She says, because my dad isn't here. But then we learned more about her past. So she shares that not only did her dad die, but before he died, she found out actually that her mom had been keeping from her that it wasn't her biological father. Her real biological dad is wanting to have a relationship with her, like be her father figure. Like, it's really hard for me to start that relationship and build that relationship, but also mourn the loss of the man who raised me. And she goes like, you know, she's like, every time I do get close to him, it just reminds me that, you know, my dad is dead, like the one that raised me. It just breaks your heart. That would be really tough. So I did really feel for her. She seemed quite emotional about it, but Justin did a really, really good job. He had a really good response. Obviously said he's sorry for her and thanked her for sharing that with him. And he also was like, you know, this just shows me even further of the woman that, like, how incredible you are. Because obviously that would prove that she is a very strong woman. He was very supportive, and he said, you know, he wants to know everything about her and how he can be there for her. And they seem to also be growing really close. The way also that she's been going about this season, I don't think that she would be sugarcoating any relationship, and we find this out later in last night's episode. I don't think she would be sweet with somebody if she really didn't feel it. So she does give him the rose. So he is staying this week, and there's a little like private concert for them, which is so cute. Okay, let me do my brows real quick. Yay, it's a good brow day. So back at the house, the guys are talking about Hunter, as per usual. So they have obviously concerns. I forgot to mention when he was talking to Greg, he also mentioned like he has a top 4. He was like, yeah, we don't have to worry, man. Like, who do you think's in the top 4? He was like, I think that it's me, you, Connor, and somebody else. So like, no, I don't understand why you would say like have a top 4. Like that seems weird and kind of shady. Then comes the date card. This is going to be the group date. So whoever isn't on the card is going on the second one-on-one. So everybody's just like hoping to not hear their name. So first is Blake and Andrew S, Michael, Greg, all guys who have had one-on-ones. Then Aaron, Mike P, Brendan, James, Trey. So it's like one last name, and it's between Connor B and Hunter, and then Hunter's name is called. So he's going on the group date, and Connor B gets the one-on-one, which is so cute. I love Connor B. He's the guy that came out in a cat suit night 1. So they go on the group date, and she tells, you know, the guys that she's looking for somebody to be her king. The guys are like waiting for what's to come. They're like, is this going to be like medieval themed date or whatever? And then out come drag queens. Now they are, I think, famous drag queens. The one was Shea Coulee and Monet. So they're like famous drag queens, and they come on, and at first I'm like, oh my goodness, are they gonna have to go into like drag, you know, costumes? I was gonna die to see all these men have to go into like and put on like a drag show. That would have been hilarious. They announced that they're actually going to be having what was called the Great Royal Debate. So they're actually it was like a mixture of a debate. So they all had to argue why they were the right person for Katie. It was like a mix between a debate but also a roast, so they could also like make jokes and roast other people. And automatically everybody started talking about Hunter when they were like planning it. And it's funny because even Hunter said, you know I'm going to probably be the butt of a lot of jokes. So he knew going in that he was probably going to get a lot of, you know, the hate, which it's like, if you know that, then don't you think you're doing something wrong? So anyways, the guys have to go and like plan, and one of the queens go up to, and that's what I'm going to just call them because I don't really know which one is which, and I don't want to butcher their names or anything, so I'm just going to call them the queens. So one of the queens, well, they were both going around to the guys, you know, seeing how they were doing. So it's to Hunter. I forget how it came up, but one of the queens basically asked him, like, do you love Katie? Like, are you falling in love with her? And he pretty much said no. Like, he kind of said, like, I haven't had enough time with her to say it yet, which I think is a mature answer. So anyways, kind of starts off with the guys. I think they were nervous to really go in on people and like really get crazy. So James just was like, yeah, I have a big heart, blah, blah, blah. And Greg wrote her a poem, and it was actually really cute. But at the same time, like the queens were like, no, this is not what we wanted. Like, we want the juice. We want the tea. We want you to roast people. So they started asking questions to kind of get the guys to start it going. So they said, who is the least compatible? And like everybody said Hunter. Brendan says Hunter. He's like, well, you know, it's funny because you have a top 4, but you would be in my bottom 4. So he like kind of outs him for having this like top 4. Some of the guys were like, what's this top 4? And Hunter flat out denies that there even is a top 4, which I thought was shady. Like, if you're gonna act like that, at least own it. Multiple guys were like, no, yes, you do. I heard of this. So it kind of was like awkward because he clearly was caught in a lie. Then the queens were like asking Hunter, so like, how do you feel about Katie? And like flat out said, I'm falling in love with her. But then all of the guys kind of were like, what? Trey had overheard his answer to the drag queen that asked Hunter this. So clearly he was again caught in another lie. So then the guys just started to like go in on him. Brendan said that like, if you're looking for a guy that respects others, Hunter isn't it. Like, he was really throwing shade. Somebody calls him a leprechaun. They called him out for being a super fan, for commenting on the blog forums, which I don't know how they would know that, or if that even is true. It kind of got awkward. Katie looked like a little bit shocked because I think she really liked Hunter. Like, she had a connection with him. So then the queens give Hunter a chance to retaliate, to defend himself. And of course he pulls the whole like, I'm not gonna, comment on anybody's character. Basically says some spiel about how he thinks that she's the one for him and blah, blah, blah. I also forgot to mention that Trey had called him out in front of Katie about how that's not the answer that he had heard him say to like a different time. So he was full out called out, and Katie, it seemed a little bit awkward. And so she was like, I'll see you tonight. See you later. So evening portion of the date comes, and it's kind of awkward. And I think the guys are a little bit conflicted about this one, to whether to tell her or talk to her about it or not, because in a sense, it's like, is it even worth mentioning? So Katie kind of opens the night up and says that she had a great time today, blah, blah, blah. But she kind of says that there were some things that were said that were a little bit concerning to her. And she basically flat out says to the guys that there are some relationships that the connection's not enough, and so that night was going to be kind of a game changer for a lot of their relationships, whether they really made an impression on her, or for some of you this is your last shot to really wow me or build a connection, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of puts a lot of pressure on the guys, and I think a lot of the guys are still concerned about Hunter. And in a sense, I'm glad that they did talk to her about it, because I don't know if she would have had the concerns she has about Hunter if they didn't. But at the same time, I think it comes to a point where it's like, when it's coming down, especially for the guys that don't have as strong of a relationship with her, I think like you really should just focus on you at that point. You know what I mean? Like, just try to make a good impression for yourself. A lot of the guys did talk about Hunter to her, Trey did. And Trey did, I think in a sense, I think he did because he wanted to explain what he had meant when they were doing the debate, because he was the one that said, like, I heard otherwise. So he did explain that he heard his answer, and he basically like said no. And so it seemed like he was saying that he loved her to advance their relationship. A lot of the guys said that he was calculated. She's like concerned about Hunter, and she pulls him aside and says, I'm having people, say this about you and say this about you. Basically, he denies pretty much everything. He doesn't have a whole lot to say about it. I don't think she was too impressed with the night. It's, as I've said before, it's refreshing to see somebody on the show that really just isn't putting up with anybody's BS. So many past seasons, I've been like, why didn't they send them home? Are you stupid? Whereas with her, it's like, the minute that somebody brings something to her attention, she's very quick to try to find out what's the truth. And, even if she's not 100% sure, she's just not going to deal with the drama. And it's so like refreshing to watch that. I think she kind of left the conversation with Hunter. I think maybe she expected him to have more to say. And I think it was just like, it just seems to be like one after the other, like guys being outed for being there for the wrong reasons, or, doing something wrong or being a concern. And I think she just also with Hunter seemed to really have a connection with him, and so it was a little bit more concerning for her, and she was having a bit of a harder time with it. So she left the conversation like, I just need to think about this. And she actually went and was like physically sick because she was just so, I think, stressed out and like concerned. And then she comes and says, I'm calling it a night and I will not be giving out a rose. So goodbye. Like, she was clearly upset. So then comes the date card, which is the one-on-one for Connor B. He's like super pumped. Okay, so number one, we go into this week, if you saw the preview, knowing that there's going to be 5 guys going home. And the other thing too was that we saw him put his suitcase at the front door. Now, every guy does this because they're on their one-on-one, because there is a chance that they could go home, right? Like, they haven't gone about showing it. So the minute that they showed Connor put his suitcase there, I was like, he's going home. I knew it. I knew he was going home. So she says, you know, with Connor, it's so easy. It's so like good. He's funny. He's so kind, blah, blah, blah. But she did say that like there is a little bit of that like spark missing, like when they kiss. You could tell that for Katie, this was a really important date for their relationship, and it was going to be a big, you know, game changer for them. I think she really wanted to feel that spark, that chemistry, that, you know, passion when they kiss type thing. The date that they went on was that Caitlin and her husband came and kind of just did like a outdoor barbecue game day, which is like seriously my ideal date. It was so cute. It was laid back. Like, it looked like it would be like the perfect little date. And he seemed to be really excited about it as well. Like, everybody was just getting along. Caitlin and her husband really seemed to like Connor. They were kind of like rooting for him. He's such a sweet, sweet, kind guy. But like, it just kind of felt more like friends. And so she really wanted to see if she could get that like spark. And so they kissed, and I think she really was just hoping to get that spark. And it seemed like it was into it. But then you see him getting ready for the evening portion of the date, and she leaves her room just in her like sweats, like in her comfy clothes, and she's bawling. So you know she's about to go send him home. And I was like, no, don't do it. But really, at the end of the day, no matter how nice a person is, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with them, you have to be, you know, physically attracted to them as well. Like, as much as you want to say, like, you know, he was such a sweet guy, at the end of the day, like, do you want to be with somebody you're not physically attracted with? Not really, right? It was nice that she didn't make him come to dinner and think things were going well. She didn't want to waste his time or give him, you know, the wrong impression or lead him on. So she went and she came to the door like not dressed up and was clearly upset. So I think he immediately knew what was going to happen. She did go on to say, like, you're an incredible guy, and, you know, I'm lucky to have you here, blah, blah, blah. And she was really emotional about it. So I think she really cared about him and again, wanted it to be there, but it just wasn't. She was almost like sobbing. He's like, I know where this is going, and it's okay. Like, he was so selfless, and a lot of guys, I think, would kind of get defensive or get closed off, and he just really cared about making sure that she wasn't sad. Like, if she had felt that with him, I think that he potentially could have won, because he was probably one of the nicest, most selfless guys, like, of the whole house. He did ask what was the problem, and she basically said, like, everything was so good, and it was so easy between us, and it was so good, and you're such an incredible man, but it was just like when we would kiss, I didn't feel that spark. So of course he's like, I must be a really bad kisser, and he didn't make her feel bad. He didn't really get too emotional in front of her, but once she left, he was crying and was clearly really heartbroken. He even went and said goodbye to the guys, which you don't usually see. And the guys were like really, really upset that he was leaving. We're obviously like upset to see him go, and he was like crying. Connor was crying, so they were sad to see him sad. But I think it was also like a bit of like a whoa, because he seemed to have a really, really like strong relationship with her. So for him to be sent home, and like every other guy that's gone on a one-on-one, she's kept. So it was like they just assumed he would be coming back, and for him to be going home, I think they were like, whoa, like if he's not safe, then we're definitely not safe. She's back at her room, super, super sad, like sobbing. And then all of a sudden you hear music playing outside of her room. It is Blake. He's literally outside. What is that movie where the guy is standing outside the door with a boombox? Like he's playing music from a boombox over his, or like a speaker over his head. He obviously just came to cheer her up, and he said, you know, obviously I was really upset for Connor. I was sad to see him go because he came to say goodbye, but he also said that you were really, seemed to be really upset, and he's like, all I could think about was you crying in your room by yourself in your sweats. He's like, I just wanted to come and cheer you up and make sure you were okay, which was really, really sweet. And then, you know, they're kissing and she invites him in her room, and you can just see like they clearly are physically into each other. She explains it's like they're overflowing with passion. So I think if she's having that with somebody who she's only met a couple or like a week ago, compared to somebody who's been there for weeks and she just can't get there, like there's no sense in wasting people's time. And honestly, I feel like after the last 2 weeks, like I remember seeing when that Blake was going to come in, I thought he was only going to stay for a week or two. But after seeing their connection, I honestly think that he is the front runner. So then comes the cocktail party. She's had a hard week, a long week. She's had to send Connor home, somebody who was important to her and she really liked. She had to hear all this stuff about Hunter, and it was once again the drama. So she kind of comes in and says, tonight, honestly, the time that we're going to spend together won't make much of a difference. I pretty much have my mind made up. I'm just so ready to move on from this drama. I'm going to be canceling the cocktail party and we're going to be going straight to the rose ceremony. And she's like, Kate, bye. So the guys are super nervous. So then comes the rose ceremony. You see that there's only 6 roses. And so you know that there is 4 guys going home. So once I saw that, I made a guess, because as I said, every week I'm going to guess before she hands out the roses. I'm going to guess. So I guessed Hunter's going to go home. I also guessed James is going to go home because he's now 2 weeks in a row been one to like talk about somebody. I just don't think she's interested in the people that like are part of the drama all the time. I also guess that Aaron's gonna go home because of that, and I guess Brendan, because we just don't see them talk a lot. So she's standing there, she's ready, she's gonna call the roses, like call the names out, she's gonna hand out the roses, and she calls out Hunter. And immediately I'm like, is she really gonna give him the first rose? Like, this is insane. But then she asks to go talk to him, and she brings the rose. So the guys are like, what's going on? Like, she went into this evening seeming so sure, so confident about what she wanted, and then she pulls him. So I think she just wanted Hunter to give Hunter one last chance to really like redeem himself and kind of defend himself and see if there was anything else he had to say, because I think she wanted to keep him, but she didn't really feel like she should. So she was just kind of like giving him one last shot to like redeem himself. He didn't really have a whole lot to say, so she kind of just was like, all right, and she sends him back in. So then she hands out the roses. She gives one to Blake. Andrew S gets a rose. Greg, Michael, so like the top runners. Mike P, who is just such a gentleman. I can see why she would want him around. And then the last one, and she calls Brendan. And I thought it was going to be Trey. I was so sad to see Trey go because he was one of my faves. He was so funny. I was right for Hunter, James, and Aaron, but then she also sent home Trey and she kept Brendan. So he was sad, and he was like, you know, I was myself 100% and I'm proud of that. And he just seems like a good guy. So I think that it was sad for him to go. Said goodbye to Hunter finally. I think that'll be the last like villain of the season. She seems to have a really good group of guys. I think everybody else that is there they're really, you know, meant to be there. So next week does look very dramatic. She's definitely falling for a whole lot of guys. She seems to really be, you know, progressing in her relationships, lots of romance, but there's also seems to be lots of tears and heartbreak. I think there's going to be one more week, and then I think it's going to be hometowns. So I think 2 guys will go home next week, or no. Okay, so there's 7. So then I think there's going to be 3 guys going home next week. And I think there's going to be 4 guys left, and then it'll be hometowns. I think hometowns will be Blake, Andrew, Greg, and Michael. That's my guess. Oh, wait, Justin. Will it be Michael or will it be Justin? I think there's definitely going to be some good guys going home next week. So I think that's why you see her crying so much in the preview. But yeah, I definitely think it'll be a good week next week. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to guess what this look is inspired by. Last week, my look was, the neon look. It was the neon balloons. It was inspired by the neon balloons. Also, do comment below who your favorites are. What did you think of this week's episode and what do you think is to come? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to make it to hometowns? I'd love to hear your opinions as well. So thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed and I will see you guys next time.